Not all is well in Murang'a, as residents of Webuye village in Kiharu Constituency, which is in Muranga County, are still in shock after a pastor of a local church was found beheaded at his home. Now, the disturbing detail is that his head was found in a cooking pot. 58-year-old Bidan Mwangi's body was found by a neighbor who had gone to visit him. Residents suspect the involvement of the Mungiki given the gruesome nature of the killing. Now, his family members say they have been in fear since the incident, especially because the motive of the killing is still unknown. The sub-chief of Kahote's sub-location, John Irongo, has however asked the locals to remain calm as investigations into the incident are carried out.
Huyu amefariki ni babagu. Saa tunasikia uoga vile tumesikia hiyo kitendo imetendwa hapa jana.
Masikitiko yangu ni kunajiuliza mambo zingine zina happen huku kwa vijiji. Serikali yetu iko wapi? Cause kama juzi hapa tu kwa plot kuna mtu alichomewa nduka hapo.
Ile imeonyeshana saa sio Mungiki, ni mtu ambaye alikuwa amelipwa kutenda kitendo.
We now move to an ongoing controversy. The National Assembly Committee on Health has ordered the Ministry of Health and the Catholic Church to jointly test the tetanus vaccine at the Kenya Medical Research Institute next week, and then the results will be made public. Kenya is one of 24 countries in the world that does not have the tetanus vaccine yet, and tetanus is one of the causes of deaths of children below the age of 5. Here's Health Cabinet Secretary James Macharia on the issue.
Has got that kind of capacity to test. And so yesterday the members of parliament agreed to support the process where we shall get a joint process between us, the church, and anybody else who is interested in having a joint process in testing. Thereafter, we shall publish the results in the media so that everybody can have confidence. Because one thing you have to be sure, this vaccine is a global vaccine. It comes from WHO and UNICEF, given to the entire world. The source is just one, being given to all countries globally. And so you have to ask yourself, how come it's only in Kenya that we are doubting this vaccine? Because it wasn't manufactured here. It was manufactured by one source, distributed through WHO and UNICEF. Have you heard any other country saying that they are doubting the vaccine? We have to do a lot more as a country. As of now, we only one of the only 24 countries with neonatal tetanus. So we cannot sit back and have 400 children dying every year because of a disease which can be vaccinated against, and therefore save the lives of these Kenyans. But having said that, we respect the views of the church, and that's why we have agreed to have this joint testing process, which should be done by next week.
Remember, the Cabinet Secretary is making that statement in response to the Catholic Church, which has claimed that WHO and UNICEF are covertly sterilizing populations using that tetanus vaccine. Elsewhere, property of unknown value went up in flames after a dormitory caught fire at Muranga Boys High School just a few hours before the school closed for the holidays. The fire started at around 6:30 p.m. when the students were assembled in the school hall. Bedding and personal belongings were raised down. Staff of the school managed to put out the fire before the county fire engine arrived at the scene. Now, the school principal, William Mwangi, says an arson attack is suspected to be behind the fire. No student was hurt during the incident.
It's too early to be able to come to a conclusion on that, but we are doing our investigations. But we cannot rule out external influence. We cannot rule out maybe there could be one or two persons who inside here who could be disgruntled.
Over 5,000 girls in primary schools in Webuye West constituency in Bungoma County will benefit from a year-long provision of sanitary pads. after a group of businessmen kicked off the initiative that's today. For many of the adolescent girls in the informal settlement, poverty has meant sanitary towels are for them too costly. Most of the girls end up not going to school when they are on their monthly period. Now, many of them use newspapers, plastic bags, and even leaves as a substitute. And the school heads have said that this gesture could actually enhance education standards and maybe even improve the ranking of the district that has been getting poor exam results over the years due to absenteeism. Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero has urged sub-county and ward administrators to ensure efficiency in collection of garbage and to help curb insecurity in the county. Speaking in Nairobi, Dr. Kidero urged the city askaris to treat hawkers in a humane way as they contribute much to the county's economy.
Garbage. And what we must do, we must get garbage out of our streets, out of our doors. And one of the reasons why you are out there, these are our assets and you must keep an eye on them. Number two is illegal constructions. We are passing a new bill called the regularization bill, and the bias is done in a manner that does not interfere with movement of human traffic and movement of roads, and it does not interfere with the business of people who are operating in premises. So yes, hawkers are necessary, but it must be done in a manner that does not cause disorder and chaos.
You know, it's been said that when one door closes, we often look so long and regretfully at it that we don't even see another one that has opened. For many people, dashed expectations can mean an end of a dream. But for people like Martha Chumo, one door closing simply means it's time to find another. On this week's episode of Outliers, a girl who turned a crushing disappointment into an opportunity. Watch.
Martha Chumo graduated high school with an A and was destined for a career in medicine, and she decided to do something drastic.
I fought with everyone. I turned down a scholarship to go to the US, blah, blah. The people don't get it. And it's considered failure. And I'm thinking if I didn't push as hard as I did and had all the fights and stood my ground, which so many people don't do, we lose so many employers, we lose so many successful businesses, we lose so much talent.
In spite of pressure from her family, her education sponsor, and her friends, Martha decided to follow her passion for programming. She was accepted into Hacker School in New York, a retreat where budding programmers gather for 3 months to write code, learn new languages, and share industry insights. She'd even secured funding for her trip, but this dream was crushed when she was denied a visa twice.
I'd written blogs, I'm going to Hacker School. There were like 3 conferences I was going to speak at while I was in New York. All of that backfired. So when that happened, I decided I'll start a Hacker School in Nairobi, because it was literally I'd been denied permission to learn, which didn't make sense for me. What we're actually doing on the ground is run workshops for young people to learn mobile development, web development, and how to play with hardware. A lot of us don't develop things in Africa. It's like we expect it to fall from above. We'll never have a Stanford or an MIT here unless we actually build a Stanford or an MIT. So it got me thinking, I could have gone to Hacker School in Keba. How many have gone before me? Probably a number. But until one is actually built here, we'll still have to be hustling and begging for visas to go to someone else's land to build.
Martha founded Nairobi Deaf School a year ago using $15,000 she raised on the internet. She was 19 years old.
So there were people I started this school with, and had a bunch of very bad days. And I ran the campaign. I was aiming to get $50,000 US. I didn't get. I made 15. And they got very discouraged because we were budgeted for a year. Of course, this won't work. This is too little to run a school for a year, and a free school for that matter. So they left. And then the first day, I literally started class, the only one. I was the teacher, I was the community manager, I was the administrator, I was the accountant, and at the end of the last day, I was like, what have I gotten myself into? What is this? Oh gosh. Everyone was like, that's not working. Why didn't you just go to university? Why didn't you just go to med school? I was meant to go to medical school. Why don't you just go to school? What are you doing? What's this whole thing you're trying to start? No one was getting it. My family was not getting it. My friends were not getting it. It was just a very lonely period, I think, in my life.
Being a teenager when she started this school, has Martha's age been a limiting factor?
It's been good for PR. So I started it when I turned 19. People, the 19-year-old who started a school or is running a school, it's good for news articles, very good for books, inspirational books, very good for tweets and blogs, not good for signing checks too.
But for Martha, giving up wasn't an option.
I got a lot of people turning me down. Before I did my second crowdfunding, I was like, you know what, I'm doing this myself then. And now after a year of doing things, it makes sense. People actually now they want to partner. Now I can ask someone to give me space at their library to run a class and they do it. And I can ask UNESCO to fund a training and they fund it. Now it gives you some authority. But it actually took you a while of almost proving yourself. And I've discovered the easiest way to prove yourself is just do it. After you do it, you actually prove people wrong. Young people are not failures, we are not disorganized, we're not all those bad things. We actually focus people who can change society. I don't need the government to create a job for me. It's actually up to me to create jobs. Look at the countries with very low unemployment. It's a private sector. The government does not employ everyone. It's a private sector that employs people, it's entrepreneurs. It's people who actually decide to change things. So many companies approach me with very nice jobs after I started this, come work for us, blah, blah. They're very lucrative. And there are times actually, that's not too bad. Oh, it won't be too bad to have a salary again. This hustling life is so much. I had to move back to my mom's house. I made a lot of changes in my own life to ensure I give my all to running this.
Martha's success is well-deserved considering the sacrifices she's made. But far from resting on her laurels, she's already planning the future.
I actually want to run a training for teachers. So I want teachers. As I said, I want every kid to get a chance to learn this. I want this to be in school curricula. As a society, we need to approach education very differently and we need to accept something different.
This library, filled with rows and rows of mostly very old books, is an interesting juxtaposition to the programming classes that Martha holds in this very room. Her ideas are as progressive as her ambitions are high, and it looks like nothing will stand in the way of this 20-year-old. Nancy Kachungira, KTN.
A look at the sports now. In cases of players boycotting and lack of modern training facilities by the national women's volleyball team is now a thing of the past. For the first time in the history of the game, a sponsor has taken over the team's burden. National Oil Corporation has pumped in 14 million shillings in sponsorship for the next 3 years. The African Queens has now acquired another name, Malkia Strikers, as they head into the Olympics and All Africa Game qualifiers. Speaking during the launch at Nairobi Hotel, Sports Cabinet Secretary Dr. Hassan Wario, oil firm for the setting pace and giving the national team what they have been asking for many years. The national women's volleyball team has won the Africa Cup on many occasions and has qualified for the World Cup once, yet there has been no support from the corporate sector.
If you are to start counting,
National Oil identified the Kenya women's volleyball team because of his success story. They have been ranked 13th in the world from the FVB rankings, and they have won the African Championships in 8 of the last 9 tournaments. We are tremendously proud of them.
We cannot be growing this sport while we do little things. The women's volleyball team will have access to Kasarani when and where, anytime they want it.
First of all, I'm very happy because this kind of sponsorship is a morale booster of the team. We've been yearning for such a thing, and now it has happened. And I think now Kenyans should expect better performance.
Well, it's now time to wind up this edition of KTN Newsdesk. Do remember once more to log on to www.standardmedia.co.ke. Yes, that's right. That's our website. And you could also follow us on Twitter. We are at KTN Kenya. It's now time for your Did You Know fact. I'm feeling generous today, so how about two? Are you a snoozer, meaning when you set your alarm in the morning, are you one who has to set it at 6 o'clock so that you're out of bed at 7:30? Well, did you know there is an alarm clock which actually, when it goes off, sets off a little rocket which makes a noise? And the rocket doesn't come back until you find it, so you have to get off the bed and find the rocket, replace it for the alarm to go off. I think that's a really innovative thing that I could use. Did you also know that video games give you better morals? Studies show that doing bad stuff in virtual worlds can actually make you feel guilty, which makes you nicer in real life. How amazing is that? My name is Edith Kimani. Do have yourself a good afternoon. Tomorrow, same place, same time.